All right. Welcome to RB Babe Publications and Presentations, Sisters Standing on Law, this April 2025, CCY 1445, MCY. I am that I am. Raz Mariah Bay, and I am glad to be here this day. I didn't realize every third Sunday, of course, we do the Sisters Standing on Law, and I thought, oh boy, but it's Easter. Now, people celebrate in different ways or whatever like that. But we're going to find out and get right down to the nitty gritty of the truth, of the root of the truth. Yeah, the root of the truth about what Easter truly is. And I'm going to start with a couple of questions. And I'm going to give you a second to write them down. Well, first of all, have a great Astarte, Ishtar, Isis, Rhea, Esther, Easter, Mayat, Venus Day. There's probably some other words you can put in there that you may know of. So just in case someone does, it's like, well, what is Astarte, etc. like that. Well, Astarte is the Hellenized form of the ancient Near Eastern goddess Atat. Atat was the Northwest Semitic equivalent of the East Semitic goddess Ishtar. So we're going to find all those names that I just had on the board. We're going to find even looking for definitions of one, you find that they are the other. So when people will say, well, I'm honoring and I'm worshiping Astarte, and then someone else will say, well, I'm honoring and I'm worshiping Ishtar, and I'm honoring and I'm worshiping Isis. They're all the same, and it's her. So again, a Semitic goddess of fertility worshipped by Phoenicians and others, also called Ashtoreth Ishtar. Now I put this on a couple of years ago, but I'm just going to brief this for just those who may not be aware. So in addition, for Astarte, again, an ancient Phoenician, we know that goes all the way back to us, goddess of love and fertility, the Phoenician counterpart to Ishtar. There you go. A Semitic goddess of fertility, sexuality, and war. Cognate in name, origin, and function with the goddess Phoenician. See, they're all right there. And Esther, the book of Esther, also known in Hebrew as the Scroll, is a book in the third section of the Hebrew Bible. It is one of the five scrolls in the Hebrew Bible, and later became part of the Christian Testament. See, these are all signs and symbols and keys. Because Esther's birth name was really Hadassah. She was of the tribe of Benjamin and lived during the time of Israel, the time when Israel was exiled and eventually saved her entire people. She was kidnapped by a king, and emerged as Esther, keeping her nationality a secret per her cousin Mordecai's instructions because he was trying to protect her. And it's interesting we talk about this exile of Israel. They just announced. We had a class last week, and we listened to the brother Shahid. He was talking about how if international law and the law was followed, um, Israel would be booted out because the Israel we're talking about is the one established in 47. So during this time of her, it was exiling. Right now, as we speak, exiling them out. It is officially internationally decreed. This is why the U.S.A is retreating back to try to mess with you here. But the difference of being exiled there and hiding nationality, the difference is no, we're not hiding nationality. That's the difference. It's a pendulum swing. We're crushing this thing. And so with Freya, which is Friday, which is Venus, they considered her the Norse goddess of love, beauty, and maternity, and nicknames Effie, Faye, E, and Fifi. All right, so let's get started on the fact that no matter what you want to call her, she is still standing there holding the scales for all who want to spend the night and come into the truth of life. Period. And so we give important messages for women because we know no nation rises higher than its women. We know this. And we give them to all, for all the mothers, the daughters, and the sisters, and all their children. Mothers to daughters and sisters and all their children. And we also want to make sure that we bring the balance of the feminine and masculine because, people think it's unbalanced when it is not. So that's the balance. So with that, we're going to talk about this thing called Easter. Now, question. If you look at this picture, it's clear that it is symbolic. There's no question that it is symbolic of what? Fertility, right? You've got bunny rabbits who, oh boy, they procreate every like 6 months or something in their season. Yeah, like, talk about being fertile. Absolutely. So that's the symbol of fertility there. Then you have eggs. Now you know eggs. Bunny rabbits do not lay eggs. So it's another symbol of fertility. Remember, man must learn by signs and symbols. So this is a commercialized, clearly, a symbolography of fertility. We can all agree. Well, let me ask you something. Isn't that a symbol of fertility? Yes, absolutely. And that is the Ankh, of course, the original cross, if you will. So we got the womb, we got the uterus, we got the fallopian tubes, we got the birth canal. So a female child is born with enough of these eggs in her womb to create nations. We're talking about eggs in the womb. We're talking about eggs. We're not talking about chicken eggs. We're talking about bunny rabbits. So if that picture is a symbol of fertility with the colorful eggs and the bunny rabbits, this is a symbol of fertility. All right, putting ourselves into perspective. Again, she's born with eggs, enough for nations. And this is another symbol of that same thing. I want you to take a look because this is Venus. This is Libra symbol, they would say, which is ruled by Venus or Mayat, everyone calls Libra. It's all these interchanging, right? So that's nothing but the Ankh right there. If you take that bottom line, okay, what is this? The sun rising and falling, depending on which, where you're at. And that line on the bottom is supposed to be the horizon of the earth plane. Now, if you take that and you turn it, that bottom line, you have the Ankh. Do you see? Symbols, signs and symbols. So again, before we move on, this is the intro. If this is a symbol of eggs being fertility and bunny rabbits, procreating every 6 months, like rabbits, it is a sign of fertility. But so is this. Let us not forget. All right, and there's eggs in that one. So again, this is another symbol of the fertility. All right, so that's another symbol. That is also the Ankh, as I stated. Turn that line back. Now, here's the questions. I'm gonna give you a minute. You can screenshot these questions, or you can kind of write them down right now, because we're gonna go back to these because that's the premise of this presentment. What does Easter represent? How and why? What does Easter represent? How and why? Number one, why is Easter considered a religious observance? Check. Two, is that said religious observance a Christian religion acknowledgement, or does it span across all religious disciplines? If so, why? Three, is Easter a representation of fertility on the earth, or number four, is it a representation of the resurrection of Yahshua or Jesus from his grave, as in he has risen, which is also recognized again on Christmas? So you got Christmas and you got, I mean, somebody explain to me, this is going to be open because it hit me like, but wait a minute, we're acknowledging this rising on both their Easter celebration and Christmas or winter solstice. Like, why is it recognized on both? All right, let's find out. And the last question, number 5, is Easter a name of a personification of someone? If so, who? There's questions. Again, we will go back to them, but I'm going to give you a second to write them down because these questions are what we trust to answer through this presentment. Right. Yeah. 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 There's a statement you'll see on that. There's a lot of attention towards the sun or SUN sun, which is the noblest image. They're very little talk about the forger. Yeah. So they'll say, I think someone says the rising of the son of Allah. Okay, all right, but we're talking about Easter, Asta, Astarte, Esther, his mama, his virgin mama. I think. Let's see if that's what we're talking about. I know that. That's the first thing everybody say. Oh, well, he has risen. Believe me, I'm not putting nothing against that or nothing like that, and certainly not. But I'm just saying, what did I, let's talk about this. Let's check this out. Everything's going back to source. Yes. So, out of the Moorish Empire in Europe, Volume 1, page 33, it says, among the multitudinous divinities which claim the reverence of the ancient Arabians, who also, Arabians was also, let me read it again, along the multitudinous divinities which claimed the reverence of the ancient Arabians was also the Hebrew Jehovah, adored under the form of a he-goat, sculptured in gold, as well as the profligate Venus, known to Babylonians as Melita and to the Phoenicians as Astarte. So this is mother and son all day long. We know that. As a tribute to their eminence in the Christian world, so now this takes another gear shift right here. As a tribute to their eminence in the Christian world, the Virgin and the Child occupied a post of honor among the 360 idols which crowded the sanctuary of Mecca. All right, that's from the Moorish Empire. Just touching. Now, this is from a book called The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth by Monica Saju and Barbara Moore, spelled M-O-R. The earliest representations of the Moon Mother, and perhaps the most universal, were in the form of a cone. Yes, you read it? Or pillar of stone. This is the column on which the death and life goddess perches, the anointed one. The stones themselves were considered sacred. Sometimes they were meteoric, like a meteorite coming down. And they were anointed by having ritual oil, blood, or fermented liquor poured over them. Now, the great Semitic moon goddess, Astarte, was worshipped on Mount Sinai by the Canaanites in the form of a stone pillar. So we just talked about these stones, right? And the pillars, when they have pillars, that's supposed to represent her thighs, her legs, going to her birth, to and fro from her birth canal. So in the form of a stone pillar, long before Moses received the stone tablets of the law. Let's say that again. So there was worship by the Canaanites in the form of a stone pillar, long before Moses received the stone tablets of the law. I mean, after all, he did go up and get the tablets. Where did he get them from, right? Everybody says that. Now we're going to find out. Mount Sinai, in fact, means mountain of the moon. So he was on Sinai. He went up and get the tablets. And Sinai is the mountain of the moon. And it is interesting to note that the Hebrew Levite priests were originally serpent priests. Levi, great serpent, as in Leviathan. So let's get straight about this snake and this serpent and all of that, right? So this picture here, this is an old depiction from the 16th century. However, it's by Albrecht Dürer, title page from a book called The Life of the Virgin. So we're going to find out why they keep calling her a virgin and what that really means. It might not have anything to do with sex. So, serpent. We want a serpent. Let me just hit. So here's the serpent that comes out. This is the representation that we've seen of the serpent. It's actually they call it an asp, ASP. Now you take a look at these are on the pharaohs, and yes, they do look so feminine because they were. That's why they look feminine, because they were. So back to the serpent thing. Let's go here. I got another one, but let's continue this one first. There is a close resemblance among moon mothers everywhere. In this form, the great goddess is always the lawgiver, the orderer of time, the judge of the dead, and the eternal source of wisdom and ecstasy. She was Ishtar of Babylon long before 3000 BC, as the Hindu moon mother Kali sits in her lotus position, breathing the rise and the fall of earthly tides. The Irish goddess Caoilte, pronounced Kali, also sits in her lotus position also and does the same. So here I wanted to find one. And I want you to take notice. You see, whenever you see the pictures of Callie, one of her legs, no matter how peaceful she may be sitting, one of her legs is always out. It's usually the left leg, always out. Like she got that leg there in case she got to stick and move, for real, because this position symbolizes serenity and captures her dual nature as both a nurturing mother and a fierce warrior. The lotus base she sits upon represents purity and divine birth. I looked at a whole lot of them. Every last one of them, and if you've seen them too, if not, you'll go and see for yourself. Every last one of them, even though it's supposed to be peaceful, I'm like, no, she's supposed to have her legs crossed and peaceful and, vulnerable. But she's like, no, I'm not going to be vulnerable, but I will be at peace. So I will not be sitting vulnerably. I'm going to have one leg out like I'm ready. That's what it's depicted. It's not my opinion. That's what every last one of them depicts. And that's that explanation there under this picture is because she's both nurturing and a fierce warrior. I thought that was interesting. We'll also see these depictions of mother and son. Everybody knows. They always talk about Mary and baby Jesus. That's it. That's what they'll say. But these are other depictions. Even Mary of the Catholic Church is called the moon and is turned to by women in childbirth, as was her original Diana, Artemis, Astarte. And then you'll see this one right here, but you'll see the dark melanation, and here's the baby right here. So they'll show you things like this, and here the moon is right here under her feet, and they'll call her Fatima. And this one over here with the gown being full, that is the crescent moon under her feet. That's why it's so wide. Also, this picture, I'm sure you've seen this one as well. They have always known her. And they sit and, pay homage to her. And then over here on the right, I just blew it up a little bit so you can see that it was a dark melanated. And that these guys right here, they're nothing but vicars. What is a vicar? Substitute. They're substitute gods. That's what a vicar means. One who performs the functions of another, a substitute. All right? And then also they call themselves vicars. So the next one incumbent, like politically, that comes in the next, takes the next position, appropriated as an ecclesiastical benefice, as distinguished from the incumbent of a non-appropriated benefice, who is called a rector. Rector. Yeah. So if you are appropriated vicar, then you're the next one in line and you have a benefice. But if you are a non-appropriated, then you call the back end. I'm sorry. Let's go. So at this point, love and peace, Sister Karima. Absolutely. What's up?
On this picture, yes, this is a great picture. But as far as the legs crossed, it
Yeah.
also represents the symbol of Venus. Uh, Venus is the one with the legs, sort of like the M with the legs crossed, if I'm not mistaken.
Virgo.
Virgo, yes, Virgo. I don't know why I well, they're one and the same. We're learning this now.
You're gonna
They're
learn
one
that
and
today.
the same.
Yes.
Yes, I often say those interchangeably because I know deep down inside that they are one because we are all one. Everything is all one. So yes, Virgo, absolutely.
Well, so you're seeing, like, saying in this picture, and I only brought this one up because I was trying to bring up all older pictures, but to show how far back they've been knowing this stuff, right? I see. Well, this one is kind of hard to see, but there's always a left leg out on the ground. So you're saying it's also creating that symbol for the Virgo.
Yes, for the Virgo,
Hmm. All right, trying to analyze whether she gonna be a warrior to step out as a warrior or whatever she got to do, right?
which is yes, Virgo, and then I you got Venus in here. You got the triangle for Libra. It's all in there. This is great. This is great picture. I see it all. I trust everyone else that sees it all. Uh, yeah, we see Virgo with the harvest. Everything is in there. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she's sitting on the lotus for peace. Yes. So you'll see different versions of that, but I found this old one. So because those are the ones we can really break down, because see, back then they didn't hide these signs and symbols like they do now. You know, they didn't. So that's why you have to look at them now.
No, they didn't hide them. They didn't hide them. They just misinterpreted them. Yeah, on purpose.
Right. On purpose, right? So let's eliminate that little sign over there. Right, exactly. So let me say this though. If you're looking for the mother and child today, because we're showing you all these different ones, just look at the sister sitting next to you. I mean, Astarte, the moon goddess, or walking down the street, the Moabite sister. That because that's where they are today, whether they know it or not. So let me go here and read this. In her form of the great whale dragon. But now this didn't go with the picture. This picture came from another older picture. This is part of our reading, but I knew I needed to bring this picture up here because in her form of the great whale dragon, Babylon, Tiamat, Hebrew, Leviathan, Ishtar brought about the great flood. And I want to say this, an earthly disaster story that the Hebrews borrowed from Sumerian and Babylonian accounts. So they say God created the flood, right? Or God poured down the flood, but it was her that did it. Clearly, but she was concerned about her drowned children. That's our next uh, coming up next. But if you could, Sister Karima, explain this picture, because we had it in the class before, and I remember Richard Amun, he caught right here. Let me put my pen up so whatever you say I can circle. But he had caught this son right here climbing up, trying to climb up to the mountain. And I mean, the explanation was awesome. So if you would explain this picture.
Yes, that's the brother climbing up. But he's also, if you look in the background, those are the waters, right, of emotion. But as we uh throughout our conquest and our struggles, we have to fight the dragon, so to say, because the dragon is the keeper, is the protector of wisdom.
Mhm.
So you have to, when this man in his essence faces this dragon, he is going to be transformed, literally, because we think it's easy climbing these mountains by degrees, that we often forget that we have foes on every level that we must face. And the dragon, being a formidable foe, is going to protect wisdom, because in order to get to wisdom, you have to forget everything. You have to literally transform. I can't imagine it enough that you have to transform literally to get to wisdom, because we know wisdom speaks on high, and wisdom is just sitting there. The dragon is asleep. But when that man gets there, the dragon inside of you, when you become who you are, that dragon that you're going to have to face is going to become awakened. But on the other side of that is wisdom. And if we really, really study the Circle Seven, there's chapters in there that's telling how beautiful wisdom is. And um, yeah. So I hope I did that some justice.
You did. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for breaking down that old depiction of wisdom. Like you said, you got to get to wisdom. You got to climb the mountains. Thank you. Thank you. And so let's look at this. But Ishtar, like we said, she's the one who commanded the flood. But Ishtar was also lamented her drowned children, and she was comparing them to fishes in the sea, Pisces. And it is always in the form of the great serpent or dragon. So this is continuing from what we're reading, or sea monster, that the moon mother was slain by later patriarchal heroes. So it is always in the form of the great serpent or dragon or sea monster that the moon mother was slain by later patriarchal heroes as Tiamat, Verity of the Vedas, the Gorgon Medusa, the dragon slain by St. George, or the snakes driven from Ireland by St. Patrick. But in fact, there never were any or many snakes in Ireland. They talking about her. But they gave her many names. But this picture over the right, she got those snakes in her head. And they'll call them what? Medusa, Methuselah, whatever, right? So, in fact, there never were any or many snakes in Ireland. The Christian saints symbolically killed a female fiend in serpentine or dragon form, whose Irish name was Caithnach or Cora, called the devil's mother by the pious. Whoa, that's kind of like the devil's mother by the pious. Everyone has a higher and a lower self, but let's get into this. She was also a fire spitter and a snake, and she was born at the beginning of time. So now we're getting closer to, okay, but who are we identifying? Yes, Tamara. Yes, exactly. This is starting the suppression of the matriarchal. Absolutely. Even though she's the mama, even though she's the beginning and the end, even though she's both masculine and feminine, even though she is it, but the patriarchal suppression of source. But now we have to go back to source. Everybody's got to backwards to the ages. Masterminds trace not just themselves, but trace, period, and thus they know. And this is what's happening now. Everything is returning to source. So they know that she was a fire spirit and a snake, and this is what they say. And because we need fire, right? Everybody gotta go through the fire. And she was born at the beginning of time. This is the cover about the snake. Let's continue with the snake. So the snake represents the Kundalini, symbol of growing, shedding, transformation, just as it was just spoken of, and rising of our chakras and our consciousness. And this particular one, this is the cover of a book called The Light of Egypt, Volume 1. You'll see if you can see that these are all the astrology signs, and these lines are pointing to the body parts that they rule. So this shows what part of the human body is ruled by each sign of the zodiac. So I'm saying that to show about this snake. There's a lot of people, they get scary berry about the snake. But let's look at this word pious, because it says that the pious called her the devil's mother. And maybe she was. Because we're all one. It depends on whether whatever child that is operating in the lower, higher self or lower self. So let's see what the pious mean. So, pious, those who are devoutly religious. The word can be used negatively to describe hypocrisy and people who are pious, and often they make hypocritical displays of virtue, sincere but unlikely to be fulfilled. So those are the hypocrites that they're all puffed up and they think that they're are better than, greater than, no more. So when we talk about, they called her the mother of the devil for the pious one, so the overly hypocritical. Now there's other definitions coming up again, so we're gonna go through that in a second. The threefold goddess of Arabia, Magna Dea, was enshrined in the sacred black stone. That is the Kaaba at Mecca, where she was served in ancient times by her priestesses, her sisters. The sacred black stone at Mecca is the site of so many pilgrimages. It's imprinted with her vulva yoni sign. Now, that's the vagina, but we get ready to find out. And covered with a black pall called the skirt of Kaaba. So let me say it again. The threefold goddess of Arabia, Magna Dea, is what is enshrined in that black stone at Kaaba that everybody goes to pilgrimage and to kiss the stone. Put it in your head, because that's exactly what they're doing. Let's check it out. So I know this is a more modern picture of the three sisters, but still it is. And it also fits with the skirt of the Kaaba. So the Vavayani sign. It's imprinted at the pilgrimage at Mecca. It's imprinted with her Vavayani sign and covered with a black pall called the skirt of Kaaba. So we are going to define vulva yani, which is really the vagina. The words vulva and yani both refer to the female genitalia. Vulva is the anatomical term for the external female genitalia, while yani is a Sanskrit word, they say, that also refers to the female genitalia, often with symbolic or spiritual connotations. Oval shaped as the vagina, also called the Vesica Pisces. This is it over here. I it wasn't very clear for them to break down each part of the vagina, but that's what it is. Now this is gonna find this a bit amazing. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's go to the next slide. These presidents, they were all of them are inside the Vesica Pisces, which represents the vagina. See the oval, even in this. Now, let's do this definition. The Beni Shaba, sons of Shaiba or Sheba, these words interact. Arab clan, historically known as the custodians of the Kaaba in Mecca. What are they protecting? Her. The Bani Shaba have traditionally held the keys to the Kaaba since the pre-Islamic era and after the Islamic prophet Muhammad's conquest of Mecca. I want to put a note here so we can make a distinction. There's so many people that are saying, oh, yeah, with the Arabs, I don't know why more say they're Arabs. Please be clear that the Berbers, there's this distinction between the Berbers, the original, what you would call Arab, is not what you see today. The Berbers upheld matriarchal principles and tenets. They fought all the time back in those days. That, like when the modern Europeans started coming up, or the mixing or whatever, they're like, "Oh no, you're not gonna disrespect my mama." Like you got to read in I think it's volume 2 of the Moorish Empire. Don't quote me, but that's who the Berbers were. They upheld the matriarchal principles, and so people get confused when you say Arabs today that just like anything else come in and try to and don't honor the principles. So be clear about this. So the male priests who serve her today are called Beni Shabbas, which means the sons of the old woman, i.e., the moon. Present day Muslim pilgrims to this shrine, the most holy place of all Islam, they are mostly unaware of the pre Islamic significance of the Kaaba. What is in the Kaaba? The three sisters. That's a stone. These people come all the way and go through a circle of seven, circling around. There's a whole circle, right, of seven, the moon, to get to kiss this black stone, which is her vagina. Are you understanding that? So why not just say that? Why not say what's enshrined inside of here? It's the three sisters, or mothers, or daughters. How you going to do all of that? Look. They circle the black stone several times to attain the summit by spiraling around it. Seven is the number of the moon, and the ancients always dance the way in spiral processions to the summits of her earth mounds. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go make my pilgrimage. That's what their representation is of the woman vagina. No, I know.
Yeah, but they
Good.
they put her in a box. They put her in a box to keep her shrouded and clouded. Yes, that's what they did.
Hmm.
And they traveling east around that circle. Absolutely.
Isn't that something though? Don't you think it's something that that's what they're doing?
Absolutely. Unbeknownst to them because they just think they doing they man knows by doing rituals. That's from the seven sages.
I
Wow.
also, it's my mall. I also find it awesome that they call our Yoni area box.
Oh, you mean on slang? Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. Whether
Yep.
they know it or
Yep.
not. Yeah, whether they know it or not, that's what they're doing. You're right, sis. Sister Energy, love and peace. Mm-hmm. So there. So now for every woman on the line and brothers to sons to so far, we gotta go back to those five questions if you wrote them down. Who is Easter? What is Easter? Is it personification? What is the religion? Does every religion acknowledge this? Because it is about her. There is no question, hands down. And her son, S-U-N, moon and the sun, is there. However, let's move on to continue this. So there are moon shrines and sanctuaries. Moon shrines and sanctuaries were situated in forests, in caves, and on mountaintops, and by lakes, sacred springs, and wells that were also healing centers. And that's to this day, because everybody's going back to let's go on a retreat and they're going to some place where they can get near the natural water. I know people who have found water spouts or springs in the woods and it's clear, pure water, hasn't been, it's already filtered through the earth itself. The stones and whatever's in the earth filters it and it just pours out. And these are healing centers, and everybody say drink water. And while they're doing their spiritual awareness, drink water, drink water. Signs and symbols. That's right. Boxing this is there. So priestesses guarded these water supplies as well as the sacred fires. This was true in even Roman times, where the priestesses were called Vestal Virgins. Remember, water springs originating deep in the earth were believed to have magic and healing powers. And fire was the fertilizing power of the moon, the sacred flame, representing the moon's light. Now I'm gonna tell you why I have Vestal Virgins pics, because I did a few years ago. I had a picture of the Vestal Virgins. I cannot find it. I can't even find that PowerPoint. I don't know. I gotta find it. I know it's there, and I meant to just pop up and try to find it, and I forgot to do that. However, let me get a picture. The vest. Let me. Maybe you've heard of people saying to keep what the Vestal Virgins would do was to keep the fire lit. And when I had learned that, I'm like, well, why? I mean, I didn't understand exactly why, but I get it now. And so keeping the sacred flame was representing the moon's light. Now, Karima, I think you've mentioned this about the fire. So I don't know if you recall if you were there with the class where they said that these Vestal virgins, they were kept in a place and their duty was to make sure that that fire within that place, that the fire was kept lit at all times. Do you have any comment on that or recall that?
Yeah. So when you see Vestal, that's the Pope and all of them holding things close to their vest, right? So this
Yeah.
is what this is what they do. So I've read things that they've always had these quote unquote virgins, and from time to time they're replaced under the Vatican. And this is what they do. They're to keep everything uh and like they stole it for them because they're able to see and to transform things. So they go to them for the counsel, right? This is why they seem so godly. And your picture before said that they were a substitute for God. So this is why they use the quote unquote Vestal uh,
Mm-hmm.
virgins.
Okay. Because what I got from it is like they were almost in bondage. Like all you got to do your whole life is keep this fire burning, because that's all they did. So I get it. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Thank you. So the torches, candles, and bonfires were burnt to help keep the moon's fertilizing light shining. The bonfires, torch processions, and candle burning at Christmas time originated in these fire rituals of the goddess. All right. And I found a picture. We're going to go to the 13. You know, everybody's scared of the 13. I found the picture. These are some minor opinions, but still, they are doing the procession on December 13th in Sweden, St. Lucia. Now, I know there's a St. Lucia in the Caribbean islands, but this is in Sweden. So now you start to see how the names are all the same, different places. On December the 13th in Sweden, St. Lucia travels in procession as the Queen of Light with a crown of candles in her hair and surrounded by her maidens. This is all depictions now. Even now they do that. And of course, the evergreen tree, the gift exchanges, and the midwinter festivals of Christmas all derive from ancient pagan, they call it, midwinter rituals of the goddess. So let's be clear about pagan because they've taken that word and wanted it to be something you reject. When the pagan is those means those who treats of the earth and nature. It's not a bad thing. But just like the number 13, it's not a bad thing. They are going to make you think it is. They want you to think it is.
And 13 being of 4, which is Cancer, of course they do.
Of course, they do. The mother. Yes. Funny you just say that. I spelled that out in here. I think it's the next slide. So I just want to be clear about the pagan thing because they say that to turn you off. In fact, it is the next slide. So we have St. Lucia, Sweden on December the 13th. We have the Festival of the Greek Hecate on August the 13th. The 13 members in a witch coven, as they would call it. So the question is the number 13 seen as unlucky because of its association with matriarchal religion or principles? That's the question.
Yes.
Did you? Oh, you got the answer? Go ahead.
The answer is yes. It is seen as such. It is deemed as such because, like you flowing this way, they put it in the box. They cover it up. This is vested. They hold these things close to the chest. Uh, yes.
Yes. So there's the numbers, numerology. 13 broken down is a 4. We know that 4 means being what we'll say on your square. Why? Because the square has 4 corners and you're being challenged. However, you're being balanced, even amongst being challenged. Without a foe, man doesn't. Without a foe, he never knows his strength. So there's the breakdown on the 13 number. You have anything to add to that number 4, Karima?
No, you said it all. You named them all. The balance. Yes. The four.
Absolutely. So they don't want you to be balanced. So among the pagan, remember pagan Scandinavians, Friday the 13th was celebrated as a beneficent day. Friday is Freya. We gave Freya before, which is Venus, right? Or Frigga's day, the great goddess of the north. Remember, I gave you the definition of Freya, which is the North Star goddess. Frigga's day, the great goddess of the north, and 13 is the number of lunar months in a year. Many patriarchal bad omens. See, patriarchal bad omens are simply reversals of what was sacred to matriarchy and the goddess religion. So there are 13 moon months in a year. And this is the part where you may have to take a second to realize it. Maybe some of you already have. But sisters, the moon, your cycle is in tune with the moon. There's no question about that. Some people are a little off or altered, or maybe because they don't eat right, maybe it's because they don't uh, different things in their body. However, not generally, actually, the moon, when the earth takes 12 months, right, to do its cycle, the moon has done 13 cycles within as it relates to the earth. So you really do have an extra period or menstruation, whether you realize it or not. I know I remember when I realized it, I mean, back then, way back then. But you do have 13. What happens is you say, didn't I just come on my period? Wait a minute, I thought I just did that. So if you're paying attention and you mark this out for those who are still menstruating, you'll find that it is 13. So many patriarchal bad omens are simply reversals of what was sacred to matriarchy and the goddess religion. We're getting ready to go a little deeper right here. The left hand path. In patriarchal religions, is called the path of evil, of woman, of black magic. That's what they called it. But the left side of the body, where the heart beats, is considered by the ancients to be the seat of divine power, divine feminine power. Because all life comes from her heart. How you going to take the left side of the body where the heart is and all life comes from her heart and say it's evil? And so this is what they purposely have done. You know, a long time ago I had written a poem because I do poetry, used to, whatever. And then when I thought about the heart, I said, my son, the only one who has a piece of my heart in all of his parts. And you can say that too about any child. And so reading this, it hits me. It hits me. So if the left hand path, the left side of the body is where the feminine divine power is, her heart, how does patriarchal religions call that the path of evil, of women, of black magic? The path of evil, the path of women, the path of black magic is the left hand path, which is the side that the heart's in. And you know what I mean? So now we begin to see and break down how this is done. If you take the word live or live, or live, live, it's the same word. I live here. It was live, spelled the same way, Live, and you reverse it to Evil. There you go. So live reversed in this manner that they're talking about would be evil. And lived past tense, Lived, is devil. So live and live or reversed is devil and evil, or yes, lived past tense devil. So they're saying it. The left hand path in patriarchal and hello. Anybody ask the question, did the patriarch suppress the matriarch? Oh, that was a good line. The left hand path in patriarchal religions is called the path of evil, of woman, of black magic. The left side of the body, where the heart beats, is considered by the ancients. So that means whoever decided that this, what is it showing you? Whoever decided from the patriarch, clearly, that the left hand path is evil, they were not the originators. There were some people before them. So they took that which was and they reversed it and spread it differently. Clearly, that's what it's saying because it says in the patriarchal religions, and then it says, but in the by the ancients, the left hand side is where the heart beats, and it does. You can say, you know what? Yeah, the heart is on the left hand side. Right, and it is the seat of divine feminine power because all life comes from her heart. So clearly, we don't have to guess who's suppressed. Oh, there's a run. We don't have to guess who's suppressed. Make a t-shirt, Olivia, that one. All right. So now, let me move on. So today, the word sinister is used to give the impression that something is harmful. However, in a coat of arms, sinister is of, on, or towards the what? The left of, like, say, a coat of arms or heraldry. If anybody studies them or knows what I'm talking about. And dextra means the right side. So sinister, which originally meant left, you can see that tied in here, right? Has come to mean everything that is suspicious, that is evil, that is ominous, while dextra, meaning right or right-handedness, has acquired a wonderful meanings like skillful, mentally clever, correct. So not only are we were not assuming that things were reversed, we're seeing exactly how they were. Because to this day, if you're a person who studies the coats of arms, it's going to say the sinister is the left side, dexter is the right. So you learn to tie these keys in. Now, in Europe, let's go here. An illegitimate child was long signified as bar sinister. You know what, Sister Karima, if you can, only if you can, I know I didn't ask you this, about the statement from C.M. Bay's work, why a child can never be illegitimate. If you could pull that up in a minute, I mean, if you can. And
So let me so this word sinister, you,
yes,
you can't have sinister without sister. So we need to delve deeper into the words sinister.
yep,
So we cannot, if we go to chapter 25, it ties into why we have one mother, that have given us up with right two breasts. So, and we have one father. That's why we can't have any illegitimate children.
Yep.
First of all, yeah, but sinister, the left, but
Yeah.
yeah, but we got to go back to you said the left hand path,
Yes.
and then you said the left side of the heart. Those are two different body parts that need to be separated, although they're on the same side of things.
Hmm. You mean the hand and the heart?
Yes,
Well, yeah, they're two different body parts, but the left side or the left
yes.
hand, right? The left hand path in patriarchal religions is called the path of evil of women of black magic. But in ancients, it's the seat of divine feminine power because it's on the left side, and that's where everything is created from, comes from her heart, her blood. That's the bloodline. It pumps that bloodline
And this is where, yes, and this is where we can meet Allah.
in
But
the
people
heart.
take that, they take their left hand. They, when you giving an oath, what do you put up? Your left or your right hand? Which one?
Ah, they have you put up your right.
Okay, but what is your left hand on?
Well, it depends on what type of oath they're having you take. They'll say, put your right hand, I don't know now, on the book, whatever book
Uh,
they want you to vibrate with.
and you got your left hand up
Yes.
because you doing evil.
Ooh, okay. We ain't guessing, y'all.
May I add?
Yeah.
May I add?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Also,
I didn't hear that. Yes.
with that, with the hands in position, there's a sacred stance called the star pose.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stand with your arms outreached and your legs apart, your left hand is facing up, your right hand is facing down. So once again, you're supposed to put your so-called right hand on the Bible and put your left hand, no, put your left hand on the Bible and your right hand up. So they even switched it around there. When you got your left hand facing up towards the heavens, if you will, you're drawing in that energy. And then all that you need to get rid of, the right hand is facing downward. You're dropping it down into the earth, which is regenerative, and you will take that in and create it to be something most beneficial for you.
Mm-hmm. So
I
the
yield.
left receives.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
That's important. So some people say, well, don't take anything from someone unless you use your left hand, depending on how sacred that might be. But that's why they say because you receive with the left. Hmm.
Yes,
Also, one more last thing. I'm left-handed.
I am too. I am
And
too.
So
coming up, but you know how this society that we're occupied under, you know how they've treated people who are left-handed
we're
as
talking
if
about
we are exactly, and not only that, I suck my left thumb as well. So
ah
still to this
Yeah.
day, so this left-handed thing is like, wow, and I'm sitting here with my goddess book right beside me, just so y'all know.
all right.
Yes, the left hand. I am left-handed also, sister energy, absolutely. They used to put people in psychiatric wards. They called it a form of something that wasn't conducive to being able to live because you're thinking with your right side of your brain. You're not supposed to do that, right? And so they made it an issue, a really big issue. But we're thinking on the right side. Islam.
Mhm. Islam.
All right. So let's move on, but let's see where we're at now because we're getting ready to go into sinister and what that was done, what that actually is, and proves what they've actually done with it. Because we left off with sinister being sister. However, let's repeat: the left hand path in patriarchal religions is called the path of evil, of woman, of black magic. They called it that. The left side of the body where the heart beats was considered by the ancients before the patriarchal to be the seat of divine feminine power. All life comes from her. That's why we tell people in determining nationality, it's always the blood. It's a bloodline because it's true. and no blood hits the egg. When the sperm hits the egg, there's no blood. Every son has a mother too, but when that sperm hits the egg to regenerate it or electrify it, there is no blood exchange. So that's another thing that they're suppressing and taking away. But we're the mother. There's only one mother anyway, but who's given us also. So now we go to the sinister. We know that the sinister is anything to the left. On a herald team or coat of arms, which kind of affirms that yes, sinister is left. So sinister, which originally meant left, has come to mean everything suspicious, evil, ominous, while dexter meaning right. Oh, and that's why they say you're ambidextrous. I got it, because you could use both. All right. Meaning dexter meaning right or right-handedness has acquired these wonderful meanings like skillful and mentally clever, correct, etc. So in Europe, so this sinister and this illegitimate stuff, right? Because sinister is left, so that's the woman. So they're gonna bar sinister. And literally, in Europe, an illegitimate child was long signified as bar sinister. So that would be bar. That means son of or daughter of, or they'll say bar something mean excluded. So bar sinister, bar left. So this is the suppression of barring the woman or suppressing the woman, meaning that a child was called illegitimate, right? Okay, in Europe, an illegitimate child was long signified. I mean, she did. I don't know what the. I thought. Let me just say this. One of the first things that I learned a long time ago was that, and this is gonna tie to this. They'll say bastard child. And they'll say a bastard child because they don't have a father. No, no such thing. No such thing. A child would be a bastard child, using that word, if there's something up with their mama. Everybody got a mama, but if there's something up with their mama. But the real deal is there can be no bastard child. There's no such thing as an illegitimate child. So I would think this is talking about those children who actually honor their mother or honor the matriarch. But let's see. So in Europe, an illegitimate child was long signified as bar sinister, meaning child of the left side, i.e., the mother side. The right hand, wow. The right hand path is supposed to be the path of goodness or of white magic. And children are encouraged to favor the right hand, the hand of righteousness, they will say. So got me looking at my hand, right? In Christian imagery, the good sheep sits on God's right hand in heaven while the bad goats go to the left. That these connotations remain with us in modern politics is not accidental. The right is father, fascistic, and the left is mother, communal. Now, what is fascistic and communal? Fascistic is fascism. However, fascism is extreme nationality or national principles and things, but with the exclusion of anything else. It's extreme hypocrisy. The left is mother, which is communal because we're community and giving love. So now they'll call that communistic. But when you look at what communal means, communal is not bad. It's of the community, right? And giving and living communal. What they turned it into politically as some communistic bad thing. That's why we need to be who we are, be what your mother made you to be, right? Be who you are and drop all of these divisions of, as you said, like she said, the fact that that these connotations remain with us in modern politics is not accidental. The right is the father, fascistic, and the left is the mother, communal. Now, Sister Karima, did you find that, or did you pull up or maybe it's in your head, I don't know, about what C and beta? And for those who don't know who C and beta is, because I realize that sometimes everybody doesn't know. There's so much for us to learn, so much for us to delve into, that when you say C and beta, someone said, well, who's that? Especially when you're going into this merge paradigm, and you've got Moors who divide. and who say, well, seeing Bay was thrown out of the temple and seeing Bay by the prophet, which is not true. We can prove that. And so they don't even uh study any of his work. And like many who don't know, the CMB is the one who actually established the Great Seal Association. And then actually, and so then, but then there's people who go through the Great Seal Association, wherever the charter may be, and don't want to respect CMB. They want to go and believe that he was thrown out of the temple. Like, it's craziness what we do. So we got to know for ourselves. That's what this is all about. So, Kareem, if you have that, um, statement from him and see.
Yeah, I have it. Can you keep traveling? I gotta tend to Sophia over here. All right.
All right, I'll
I
keep traveling.
got
We're going to come back to it. All right. So where we were going next, though, is what does virgin really mean? Oh, my goodness. What does virgin really mean? It does not have anything to do with sex. I know this may blow some, especially some brothers' mind, sons' minds, maybe. I know that maybe not, but it doesn't. So because this is the next department, I mean the next portion, I want to just ask: is there any questions or anything while we wait for Karima to um, tend to? All right, here we go. Royal Donnell. Thank you, Royal. What's up?
Islam, Islam, much love, mothers, sisters.
All right.
Um, I was just thinking the other day, and even a little before that, and at times where I was trying to figure out, well, wait a minute, what side of the body is the heart on again? And what I did was I went back to uh when we did the pledge allegiance to the flag. So I confused myself with the idea that in that we put our right hand up and our left hand, over to what was claimed to be our heart. But if our heart is on our left side, how is that possible? And then this particular lesson that you're sharing, this presentment, just shows us why uh we have to be careful with the analysis that we need to actually know the road to returning back to our the mindset of our ancestors,
Yep.
because this scourge of the patriarchal, which now is showing real, wow, well designed in terms of all that connotative, going deeper than what we even thought it was. So
Yep.
now everybody's talking and writing and reading, but how many are really carefully, forensically analyzing these things to the point so that those different vicious traps in the middle we don't get caught in
Yep.
and wind up, thinking that a black cat is bad luck. You know,
Right.
Islam.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for that acknowledgement for all of us. And then we also have Tamara, Sister Tamara Nataki. What's up?
Greetings, Islam. You can
Mhm.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Greetings and Islam to everyone. Happy Sunday. I kind of last with the days. We get a couple days off here at the islands. The Christians that take the Easter very serious. So I want to say thank you very much. Much gratitude to you for doing this presentation today. It's right on time and right in line, adding to what my mind was already on years ago, coming from the thought of, oh, that got nothing to do with me. Um,
Mm.
that's their thing and that's their holiday. And then it went to hearing about the for the moon and planting for farming. I mostly would then kind of come into my senses when I started to hang around some farmers, and they would talk about planting around the moon phase, the
Mm,
Rasta man them, the Rasta woman them, and they doing their garden based on that way and stuff like that. And then we started to talk about later down, maybe like 2015, around them time. Ones were more talking about being in tune and how it has to do with farming and understanding it, not just to get the food, but actually knowing the moon phases and stuff without the book. So I've had the good fortune of being around ones that can plant without the book. They've
mm,
been long, or their family's been doing it so long, they raise planting and eating from the soil off the land, especially those of us that are Rastafari. So that was one way of learning to accept Easter and the heavens and above and so below. And then now seeing it even more explained and and correlating it to the left and woman and womb again and fertility. And I was like, wow, when you really look at it, I can see that now. The prophet just said if you could just get to thinking, not that rabbit laid eggs all this time, is fertility. And if you
yeah,
would just look up, well, what a why how many cycles a rabbit, how many times did a breed or did I get pregnant, or all of that is like same thing like you, and knowing now how you had it from in the flyer about the cycles and how we menstruate and cycle and all that just tie into one. I also want to say I read someplace back that the word sin had to do with moon, and woman, and the words today about hearing of the word sinister. And when Sister Karima mentioned that you can't have sinister without sister, and once again it's just right back to the woman and the womb. So I want to say this truly making sense, and you do it in a good time. This time of the year, like I said, we take the Christians. They have the island so Christianized. It's a big holiday, so the offices
mm,
and the schools are closed from Thursday through Monday.
mm-hmm,
Um, and so basically, I noticed the people, even though the society claims to be this Christian, the people hold on to the natural culture, the indigenous culture, the aboriginal culture by they take this time to go to the sea.
mm-hmm,
The days that the schools and the offices is closed, these families are at the beach from maybe the week before. So all now
Lord,
they're up tents and they're cooking at the beach, and the families still go. They still
yes,
hold that tradition, of going to the water and being I'm seeing their mother. So
yeah,
again, thank you for the presentation. It just tying in everything that bits and pieces that I've gotten over the years. Today
mhm.
really just seal it. So give thanks for that and thank you.
Oh,
This
thank you. And as far as the moon and planet by the moon, you're absolutely correct. It was done by the cycles of the moon without a book, because they put it in a book later. Someone put it in a. In fact, Benjamin Banneker did a almanac for the modern Europeans when they came into the fold of civilization. Or government here. So that and then the fact that they're going to the water and the moon. Look, everyone knows that the moon is so strong when it's full that it pulls the waters of the oceans and the seas, any water on the entire earth. That's how strong that connection is. And it also pulls the waters in your body, which is why they have that thing where they say, oh, it's a full moon. Somebody's going to be acting crazy or something like that. All right. That is from the moon, the mother moon. All right. And its relationship to the water on the earth. And that's also why some hospitals, they don't tell you. They use a little bit of the science, but they cloak it like everything else. They won't do operations when there's a full moon. They won't schedule them anyway. There may be emergencies, but they won't, because they know that the fluids in the body are going to be more forward. All right. So yes, I can see why they go to the waters. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sister Karima, are you ready to just
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Go back, right? Because
Right.
I didn't want to move on because this is a section, and then we have one more to
Absolutely.
show people
So
what the Christians did as to why it is such great celebration. So we were talking about the illegitimate, or what some people call a bastard child. Yes.
so we're gonna go to the Zodiac Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
Article 5, number 3 says definitely there cannot be any illegitimate children, offspring from woman and man, because woman is the supreme gate of creation of both male and female children by the laws of nature, which spells Islam, or I self law and master, the
Yep.
carpenter, and the grand architecture of the human family. And I'll stop right there unless you want me to go into the Christian part of it.
You know what? Hold that, because the next section after this is of showing how, as Tamara just said, it's such a big celebration, etc. How the Christianity started, and how this celebration of Easter is gonna blow your mind if you don't know already. But even if you do, let's take that reminder. Thank you. So hold on to that. Yep. Yep, that'll go right in with the with the section after this. So, what does Virgin? Because we talk about the Virgin Mother, the Virgin Mother. Right? This is, keep in mind, over here is a actual, because you see it's broken up here, stone depiction or manifestation of Isis with Horus. That's mother. Remember we just showed you all the baby Mary and baby Jesus, and all the other depictions. All right, here is one. Now I'm going to say Egypt. They'll say ancient Egypt, but Egypt really is modern. It's not really ancient, but we've done a lot of us have, gotten our studies and gone to Egypt, but we don't go beyond. So over here on the left, Egyptian Isis with Horus, whom she conceived without husband or lover. Now that's a whole different class. We ain't even going there right now. You can figure this all out on your own. What we're gonna do is go to what does virgin really mean. Let's do that. So ancient moon priestesses were called virgins. That's just number one. Virgin meant not married, not belonging to a man, a woman who was one in herself. So if Horus came from her, all right, how does she get to belong to him? Now that's the twist that they did, um, on these facts. So virgin means strength, force, skill, and was later, I should have put later in red, later applied to men, and it was called virile or virile. He's got a lot of virility and strength. But it means to have strength, force, skill, to be one who is not married, not belonging to a man, a woman who was one in herself. That's what it means. So, what does virgin? Okay, this is continued. Ishtar, Diana, Astarte, Isis were all called virgins. Oh, and before I go on, Tamara just hit me. You said something about the sin. It actually is skin, but the sin associated with the moon. All right. Remember, that's Mount Sinai. Sinai, where Moses went up and got the tablets. All right. So, like, let's not forget where this is all coming from before Moses even went to get the tablets. Because I always said, well, he went up on the mountain, he came down with tablets. Where did he get them from? But so I just wanted to clear that part up. So now let's go to Ishtar, Diana, Astarte, Isis were all called virgin, which did not refer to sexual chastity, but sexual independence. All great culture heroes of the past, mythic or historic, were said to be born of virgin mothers. We're talking Marduk, Gilgamesh, Buddha, Osiris, Dionysus, Genghis Khan, and Jesus. They were all affirmed as sons of the great mother of the original one. Their worldly powers deriving from her. When the Hebrews used the word virgin and in the original Aramaic, it meant maiden or young woman with no connotations of sexual chastity. But later, Christian translators could not conceive of the Virgin Mary as a woman of independent sexuality. Needless to say, they distorted the meaning into sexually pure, chaste, and never touched. That is not what it meant. But they couldn't conceive of it. So, moon goddesses turned into orgiastic rites. Hold on, we got a hand up here. Let me see. Energy, yes. Did you want to make a comment before we move on?
Yes, it was on the lines of what you're speaking on, sister. Virgins also, I'm coming from the source of the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary,
Yes.
and I thought this was interesting. Virgins, 10, meta. The 10 virgins, Matthew 25, 1 through 13. Can you hear me just fine?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Continuing.
All right.
Represents the senses. They are 5 in number, but have a twofold action: 5 in the inner realm and 5 in the outer world. The way to supply oil for the lamps of the virgins, even of the foolish ones, is to affirm that the life source, spirit from which comes the power of hearing, smelling, feeling, seeing, and tasting, is not material but spiritual. I yield.
Thank you. All right. Right in tune. So moving on. The moon goddess turned into the orgiastic rites. All right. So this is where they talk about them orgies and they use the sexual energy of her for to to invoke through that great energy what they want to appear. So the moon goddess was worshipped in orgiastic rites, being the divinity of matriarchal women, free to take as many lovers as they choose. Women could surrender themselves to the goddess by making love to a stranger in her temple. This has been called by male historians sacred prostitution. But the word is totally misleading. This was not any kind of service to men, nor did any woman have to do this to live. All right. So we're saying that people have used the energy for orgies or whatever like that. They have in different secret societies or whatever, or whoever or however. So just saying that the moon goddess energy has been used for that. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just telling you the source. Because she is always the source of it all right. So we were talking about the orgiastic people using that energy for orgiastic. So it was a way for them to participate for a ritual moment in the trans individual being of the goddess. The goddess comes into being in the moment of union, a moment of psychic as well as sexual union. This was one way that men could partake in her essence also through the body of woman, not the body of Christ, the body of woman. So that means that I guess if they got involved, they were like, okay, they could participate too. So now that we have covered that, let's go to the worship of the cow. Remember the sacred cow and some of the Indian, East Indian things? Well, let me tell you what that was about. And then we have one last section. The horned cow, with a significance going back to the Stone Age, and like the sacred calf of Egypt had a triangle between the horns. And this is what I want to bring out, because you only see the sun disk now, the round disk, but originally it was a triangle. All right. So it had a triangle between the horns inlaid in mother of pearl. That's a stone. The Paleolithic female triangle later stood as an upright cone or little mountain between the horns of Syrian altars, and in Egypt and Mesopotamia also, as the symbolic attribute of the goddess of birth. So why a cone or triangle shape? This triangle right here, since we just got through with the orgiastics, this is a triangle of the Trinity of mind, body, and soul of one person. This is two people coming together. Two people, mind, body, and soul, or sun, moon, and rising. And when they come together over here, when they come together like in a sexual manner, that's two people that are coming together and having that sexual affair, if you will. And you notice there's 6 points to it. So the 6, or where they get the sex, is from this 6. Doesn't mean you have to have 6 people. This just means that this is where this comes from, and this triangle. And that triangle comes from where? From off of the astrology wheel. Right? And it is called what? The hex alpha. Masculine and feminine, yes. Because she hexes the alpha. Her energies, her great energies, hex the male energies. They are joined together. Do you understand? That's why they call this symbol in geometry the hex alpha. This symbol with the 2 triangles is called the hex alpha. And the 6 points. Now, this is all of those energies off of the astrology wheel. And this is called the tetragrammaton. And this is referred to as the Hebrew name of God, transliterated in 4 letters as Yahweh, right here, YHWH or JHVH, articulated as Yahweh or Jehovah. Do you hear? The very first symbol of any religion was this, the tetragrammaton. Yeah, I wanted to explain why that triangle is missing now, or cone they would call it, but it originally was that. So moving along, explaining this cow. I know this is someone's drawing, but I thought to myself, there's places where they say they let the cows roam in the east, right? And I'm like, wow, if they dressed the cow up like this, I'm not saying they did, but this is what I found when I was looking for Hathor, because this this is Hathor, and these are the this represents, the cow, right? The horns. And over here you'll see it's a cow face, because sometimes they'll put the cow face on her. But here's why. She was seen as the cosmic cow who produced galactic milk, human milk, and the new foods, and who ruled over the sacred herds. She who gives you blessings from heaven above and from the abyss below, blessings of mother life. Her gifts were seen to pour from the sky, from the dark abyss of the unknown, and from humanity. She was the goddess of the pasture, and the sacred queen or king was ritually nourished from her milk. I am the fold, and he is the lamb. That's her statement. She was the gate of the dolmen womb, 2 stone pillars. So imagine 2 stone pillars. I didn't get the picture. All right. With a transverse stone resting over them as a kind of ritual doorway. Entrance and threshold rites were always performed to her. The enclosure, the gate, the door, the pillars of the temple, all these were her body and were thought to have images and healing powers. Another statement she made, I have breast, therefore I am, says the great mother. These are her words carved in stone, in a stone inscription from dynastic Egypt. And this picture. Now, this is going to be for later. I just want you to remind. We got to do another class. It's going to be called the Yakubian Experiment. We've been working on it. Look at this. This is Persephone. This is here's Hathor, supposedly Hathor, right? Now, what brought to my mind? First of all, look at the sister here. Her head is in her hands with, oh my gosh, what have you wrought? Meaning, what have you made? And I want you to notice that this is a monkey. Remember, the sisters came together, used the human DNA to make the the Yakubian experiment. We find out where these people who are always reversed or what we call modern Europeans, these experiments came from the sisters in the laboratory. They gave rights to some of the brothers like Yakub, Morluak and Il, right? He was a high priest, but he was only assigned a high priest because the women are the priests and they assigned it to him. So this is another class, but I thought it was interesting because we are working on giving that particular class too. Let's move on. Now we're going to take you, and this is going to be the end of the presentment. After showing you all of this stuff, we're going to go back to those 5 questions at the top of the class too. However, how the Easter and Christian significance. I want you to, you just saw everything, right? From the mother. But here's the deal. Constantine, who is the father of Christianity, if you punch it in, it'll come up on the web, father of Christianity, it wasn't Yahshua.